90s erotic thriller season comes to an end with Cruel Intentions, a movie aimed at a younger audience than anything we've covered so far. In fact, it won the coveted Best Kiss at that year's MTV Movie Awards. However, will we do justice to a film with such accolades? Welcome everyone to the Collector's Cut. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
I'm the Marsha Brady of the Upper East Side, and sometimes I want to kill myself.
This is a movie podcast we are currently working through. In fact, today we are finishing 90s erotic thriller season. This is our 7th movie in this series.
I think so. Yeah, sounds right.
And we did them kind of in order of release, just partly by accident, but also because it works. Why not? Let's go through it in the order they kind of hit the world. This final film is from 1999. It's a famous one amongst people who were a teenager at the time, and that is Cruel Intentions. So we will start spoiler-free, of course, as we always do. We'll give you warning before spoilers, and of course you can support the show by giving us a like on YouTube, or you can support us over Patreon and get some bonus content. I'll tell you more about that bonus stuff, though, at the end of the show. So, yes, Cruel Intentions. I remember this being a thing. I did see it probably within a year or two of it coming out, probably when it hit cable.
Okay.
Because this was in the era where I actually watched cable. Movie channels and things like that, because I'm an old. But
what do you mean you didn't get to pick what showed up on the TV at any given time? I don't understand.
Well, what's funny though is this was right around the time though where they started doing like movies on pay-per-view, where it'd basically be the pay-per-view channels would be like the movie theater, where the movie would keep playing like again and again, and you'd just pay for that slot, and you'd watch that slot. I remember that being a thing. I didn't do it for this movie, but I remember doing it for Urban Legend, which was around the same time.
I love the fact that you have to explain what pay-per-view is to an audience here. I love that.
And in the UK, because the big main provider's satellite is Sky, I didn't have that. I had cable, which was NTL at the time, and their pay-per-view movie service was called Front Row, because Sky's was called Sky Box Office.
Okay.
I had Front Row. And there was always 4 different movies playing. This was before it went digital, though, and it skyrocketed to like 50. But anyway, that's a weird tangent. Just for the headspace of the time period that was 1999.
Let me get out the frosted tips and the puka shell necklaces. That's really gonna set us there.
Well, I mean, it's funny because like the weird thing about this, and you know, we've done movies from around this era before. I'm thinking mainly of like Bring It On, which is like a year after this. Where it's very, very well set in that time. And we even said that a little bit about Wild Things. But I think with this one especially, we're heavy into the period where, I mean, I was 10 when this came out, so I was just about to get into that preteen kind of like age. Is that, holy crap, the soundtrack of this movie. Which it's just this like wave. Like nostalgia's not even the right word, because it's not all happy. It's like a wave of just like a period of life that I remember, and just these songs all playing. And of course Sony released this movie because they're the ones that make movies that have soundtracks where it's just constant songs. So I'm
honestly surprised that every single Columbia movie that came out around this time didn't just stop dead center in the middle of the credits and say, by the way, Columbia Records has a new album out.
Wasn't didn't Wild Things also, wasn't that also Columbia?
I think so. I think we commented on that. Yeah.
So yeah, funny that the later 90s erotic thrillers all came from that camp, as opposed to the other places that had been doing it earlier. Just curious. And skewing younger and younger. Which actually...
one thing before you get into that, I just want to say on the soundtrack, apparently, just in me looking up stuff about this movie, there was a jukebox musical adaptation of this in 2015. And jukebox musicals, for those who are unaware, they just use pre-existing songs to fill out their soundtrack for a Broadway show. And dear Lord, you're talking about the wave of nostalgia. They have front-loaded it. It is all exactly the songs you hear in this movie, and then every other 90s song you can think of.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. I know what that term means, but I didn't know it at the time, so I didn't know. I remember when, I think it was like when the musical episode of The Flash aired, and I went, this is weird, it's all just pop songs, like, this is strange. And then I found out there was a term for that, jukebox musical, where it's just pop songs. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Yeah. Actually, so what's so funny about this is that this movie is set during the summer, and it's all building up to the start of the school year. Yes. And I thought the entire movie, so we're not in spoilers yet, right? Obviously, we're not in spoilers. But the whole movie, I thought these were college students. The entire time.
I know.
And then at the end of the movie, when they're actually starting class and they're in a private school, so they're all wearing uniforms, and I went, wait a minute, are these all meant to be like under 18? I nearly spat out my drink.
Yep.
Maybe it's my fault for not knowing that Manchester is a private school in New York.
Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that at all. I will vouch for that. No, this is there's a very specific period of time, and it's you know, the Dawson's Creek sort of thing, where these kids, like, they want to appeal to this younger generation, but they can't have it be the problems that the kids would actually realistically deal with, because those problems are stupid and adults don't want to write that. So instead they write adult problems and just have kids like dealing with them.
I think it's
that just existed for a while there. It's
that, but it's also, do they know that kids, you know, teenagers want to like think that they're more adult. So by saying, hey, all the teenagers, I mean, yeah, teenagers do have some sex, but it's not quite as how it's presented in this movie. I'm going to say that right now. But so that's the whole thing. And it's funny you bring up Dawson's Creek, because of course, in this is a notable TV star from a hit WB TV show. And that, of course, is Joshua Jackson from Dawson's Creek.
Caught me off guard. I finished rewatching Fringe maybe a few months ago, and I'm like, oh hey,
I love
here
Fringe.
You are.
Fringe is great. I love
Fringe is great. Yeah,
Fringe is a great show. Yeah. So yeah, we got a big WB TV star in this movie. Just him, no one else.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's anybody in here who's from any other hit television shows.
Yeah, especially not one with vampires in it.
No. Was Ryan Phillippe in Angel? Did he show up in that?
No. All right,
then nobody I know of then.
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, no, I don't think so.
You just want to get it off your chest? You just want to do it?
I know what it is. Selma Blair was in Hellboy, and that's got demons and stuff in it. That's what I'm thinking of.
That's it, Selma Blair.
That's what I'm
clearly the one who made it out of this biggest.
Of course, it stars Sarah Michelle Gellar from the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There we go. We've got it out of the way. Everyone can relax. It's fine. Now that we're on the cash jet, anyway, what was I talking about when we went to that?
I don't know. You just started on Joshua Jackson being here. And then
because you brought up Dawson's Creek, and
yes, like, that's right.
And I was like, is that intentional? Did he do that intentionally, or is he just?
I did not. I'm just stupid like that.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Although Dawson's Creek, from what I've seen of Dawson's Creek, which is a season, I think, that was definitely your trashy teen show where everyone's having more adult lives. Like, obviously, people kind of lump it together with something like Buffy because, they were both high school shows on the WB, but, well, obviously, Buffy had a lot of plots that teenagers don't face, but they're more fantastical. It's like, like, it wasn't as trashy in the way that something like Dawson's Creek is, or that something like, you know, later years, I don't know, the OC or One Tree Hill or all these things. I never saw any of those, but they all look like the same show.
Absolutely. So, I remember, I mean, you're going to give me crap for this, I'm sure, but I remember watching Smallville back when it was first actually coming out. And there were all the ads for the WB shows in the middle of like One Tree Hill on this week's episode. Freaking Julie's gonna, I don't know, go to camp or something. I'm like, well, this show seems so... Give me more superhero stuff. Why would I want to watch this?
Yes, but
then CW just became all superhero stuff.
Yes, and then one day you regretted those words and Dean said, please give me something else other than superhero stuff, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. So, yeah, I did see this way back in the day. I maybe even saw it more than once. It's because that's that kind of era where it would just be on TV, and I probably saw it a couple of times. Right. But, yeah.
I mean, I didn't have any cable that definitely would have shown this at any point, but I did definitely see it somewhere in early teen years. I mean, obviously not a year within it came out. It probably was a good 5-6 years afterwards, but
yeah, somewhere in the mid 2000s.
Yeah,
I had forgotten a lot of that. You know, I remember, you know, Sarah Michelle Gellar plays like a super evil, you know, bitch basically, and it's, you know, obviously a lot of sex talk and a lot of like luring people into various things, blah blah blah. But I had forgotten a lot. I'd forgotten something big from the ending. Actually, I did not remember something happening at the end that made me go, oh, I forgot this. Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, this one takes a swing. All right.
So, I mean, male lookers. I will say this though: out of all the movies we did for this season, this was the one that I was the least looking forward to having to sit through.
Really? Okay.
Because it was the least interesting, partly because I'd seen it before, but also because I knew it wasn't going to, like, regardless of how I felt about David Cronenberg's Crash, I knew it was going to be an experience. I knew he was going to be taking swings. I knew he was going to be doing ballsy things that I'd remember and would be interesting, if not entertaining. But with this, I'm like, oh, this is the trashy teen-focused, like, movie that, you know, like, it was always going to be the least interesting one to me. Out of the whole bunch, which is not to say that I don't have anything to say about it. I do, but it definitely wasn't the one that I was more excited to watch. Because even though something like Single White Female didn't turn out to be great, I hadn't seen that, so it was at least like, oh well, I'm curious what this is.
Yeah, you at least have some interest going into it.
Yeah. Whereas this was kind of like, okay, like, you know, I remember this time period. I remember what these types of movies were like. If anything, I was almost just shocked that I didn't get the I was surprised I didn't hear that song. But that said, though, it did have Bittersweet Symphony at the end, which is probably the most timely song it could have had.
That's you're talking about stuff you remember from the movie. I remember it a bit more than you, but that is the thing that stuck out to me. That's the part where I'm like, Bittersweet Symphony and this movie just coexist in my brain. You can't have one without the other. I
did not remember they used that song, but as soon as I heard like the little inkling of it starting to play, I was like, oh, I know that track. I hear it. I hear you. Verve.
I think, is it Verve or Verve Pipe?
It's just the Verve, I think.
Okay. There's definitely a band called Verve Pipe, but
I've never heard of Verve Pipe, so I don't think it's that.
All right, fair enough.
So that's my story. Anyway, I guess we'll get to the basic question. Well, I suppose the premise, I suppose. Ryan Phillippe plays Sebastian. He tries to have sex with as many women as possible. He's a rich, spoiled brat. So is Sarah Michelle Gellar. They're actually step-siblings. He clearly wants to have sex with her, and she wants to lead him on as much as humanly possible without actually doing it. And they make a bet for him to have sex with someone who she and him both deem as a difficult target.
She is chastity 100%.
Yes, she is. Wait until marriage and love. And that's Reese Witherspoon's character. And if he succeeds in banging her, then Sarah Michelle Gellar will let him bang her too. Like so his prize for banging Reese Witherspoon is he'll also get to bang Sarah Michelle Gellar. That's the premise of this movie.
You know, something that every teen has to worry about growing up. And then also there's a side plot where Selma Blair is a very awkward woman, and she is being led into quote-unquote womanhood by Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Honestly, I've probably got more to say about that plot than I do the other plot. I have many thoughts, but before we get to any of that, David,
yes,
what are your feelings on Cruel Intentions?
This movie is so needlessly sexual. It's so over the top. It's so pretentious in so many ways. It's not a good movie, but I can't help but have this nostalgic feeling for it. You know, it like scratches an itch in my head where I'm like, this is exactly what this time in movie was. This is this is literally the final years of the Clinton administration just before 2001. It's the same feeling that you get watching something like Office Space. It's the same sort of feeling you get watching things like American Pie, where nothing was going wrong for anybody in this time. And so everything was just kind of hyped up to, well, we're going to have to make our own problems. And God, I wish we could get back to that. I wish we could go back to where, like, we could just make up our own, like, but I'm not self-fulfilling myself properly here. Overall, again, like I said, it's so pretentious in the writing, and I do think the writing, the performances of the actors are good at times. There are scenes that really work for me, but on the whole, it is a very over-the-top and corny production in general. It feels very much like almost like soap opera kind of levels at times. I do think that is also kind of just playing with how over the top the story is. Like, if these were actors playing this as seriously as they could the entire way through and really portraying it, I don't think it would have nearly as much charm as it does coming back to it now, where you can play up those silly aspects of what the story really is. Yeah, beyond that, I don't really have much to say in the technicalities. It is just, for whatever reason, a nostalgia blast of watching through this, and it just immediately takes me back to a much earlier point in my life.
A simpler time.
A simpler time before I had to watch trash on this show.
A simpler time when you thought you could make bets with your hot stepsister that if you have sex with someone else, your stepsister will let you have sex with her too. In any place you want, might I add.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this movie sucks. Let's just let's just start with that. It's not a good movie. It's over the top in a way that I don't find particularly appealing. I think I get that the main character is kind of meant to be unlikable, but I think also you're supposed to think by the end that he goes through a change in an arc, and I never really bought that change. I don't think the romance with Reese Witherspoon that's supposed to be a genuine thing that actually blossoms, I ever really felt had any real chemistry or convinced me that it was enough to actually change any of the characters in any meaningful way. So I think that side of it is a complete dud. I will say that there are good dark jokes in the movie. I will give it that. There's the odd transition, especially where someone will end a scene by saying something, and then what it cuts to is funny because it's, it was set up and it's ironic that it's cut to them do it. Like, for example, someone saying, "I won't overreact," cut to them overreacting. Like, it does that a few times, and it's usually amusing at the very least. So I'll give it that. Honestly, my biggest problem with this movie, though, right, that really bugged me this time, and Selma Blair's character. We have to talk about Selma Blair's character because I think that the way she plays this role. Now, obviously, right, this is not a thing about the actors. Like, I think she was in her mid-20s by the time she was playing this role. And I thought they were all college age for most of the movie. Obviously, knowing at the end that she's a freshman in high school and they're like seniors now or whatever it is, I mean, maybe recontextualizes it a bit. But the way she plays this role of someone who's not had sex yet and not even kissed anyone yet and is like sort of like coerced into doing more and more things by the others, it really bugged me, the performance. And I'm not blaming her and saying she did a bad job as an actress. I'm sure she was been directed to play it a certain way. But the way the character is written, the lines of dialogue and the reactions to things, they range from being about how like a 13-year-old would react to it to maybe an 8-year-old would react to it. There are times in this where she'll giggle and say something tickles, and I'm like, you sound like you're playing an 8-year-old, not a 16-year-old or whatever you're meant to be. And it really bothered me because it made it feel way more creepy than it should have done.
No, I get what you're saying. I think the intention was supposed to be much more socially awkward than childish. Like someone who doesn't know the proper thing to say at a proper time. Yeah,
that's not how it comes across, though.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, though, that it's definitely someone who's just so unaware that it comes across as childish. Yeah,
like she can't even say certain words out loud. She has to whisper things, and she's like, "Oh, it tickles." Oh, it's like, and then after she's had sex at one point, and I don't think it's a spoiler to say that happens in the movie. Even the way she talks after the fact, where she's like, again, she's like a really young child, like. It's like, oh, now she feels like because she's crossed that line, she can say the words now. So she starts offering blowjobs and things. And it comes across as a child offering something they don't understand or I don't know, just that felt weird to me watching this now, right? As an adult watching this, I felt uncomfortable. And it's not like there's only one adult trying to have sex with her either. There's like multiple people, there's multiple instances. It's a bit weird. And I didn't like that. So.
Yeah. No, I fully get what you're saying there. It's a strange plot because, again, a lot of this movie is sex for the sake of sex. Like, yes, the story is about that. Yes, they build it around that. But, like, the level that they go to demonstrate certain things and to get into that mindset is, at times, a bit much. And I think that is absolutely set up with the kissing scene that Selma and Sarah Michelle Gellar have. That is, from a story viewpoint, you can justify it, but the level of attention that they give it, it is absolutely just trying to sexualize it as much as possible. And when you're looking at it from the viewpoint of, oh, Selma Blair filming this is 27 years old, which I looked up, she was 27 years old. It's not that bad, but when you then take into account how the characters' ages are supposed to be in this, it then all of a sudden gets to a weird point.
Yeah. Yeah, I was never really questioning anything with the actors. They're clearly all, like, you know, older than the roles they're playing. But the way she's performing the role, because it's one thing to look at the other characters and say, okay, especially by the end when I realized they're still getting high school, I'm like, okay, so you're meant to be 17, Sarah Michelle Gellar. Okay, it's weird that you're saying a 17-year-old's already this, like, seductive and doing all this stuff as well as you are, and you're as cruel as you are, and all the rest of it. But you're playing the role like someone who is super manipulative and smart, right? So you can sort of suspend your disbelief and just get into the idea that this is how this character functions. But because Selma Blair's character is playing the role like she doesn't even know, like, what a clitoris is. It's like, it's hard to...
The kissing scene directly says, like, oh, I don't know anything about anything. I'm completely, like, a babe in the woods. I have no idea how to even kiss someone.
Yeah, and when she says, oh, have you not practiced any of your girlfriend? She's like, ew, that's gross. Like, again, like, she comes across like a child who thinks all of this is disgusting. But at this, and I know she's introduced with the idea that, oh, she's went to all girls' schools up until now, and I get that would mean she's maybe a little less experienced, she's maybe a little awkward around boys or whatever because she's not used to it. But there's a difference between someone who's not experienced these things still grows up in real time. They still have a more, like, someone who's not experienced all that stuff but gets to an older age, let's say you get to 21, right, and you've never really had sex or done any of that stuff, you still have a very different view of it compared to what you did at 12. You still mature, even if you're not experiencing certain things. So the idea that she's still going, oh, that's gross, and oh, that tickles, you want to what me? Like all of it just feels so weird and just poorly written. It doesn't feel, it comes across more as someone who has like learning difficulties than it does someone who's been coddled too much. Yeah,
no, I'd agree with that.
So
it was, especially during her first scene where we're just introduced to the character and like she's just sitting there like leaning back, slouching in the chair, and she's like pulling up her shirt a little bit to show a koala that's printed on it. It's like, okay, so you're 7. Like,
yeah, that's what it comes across as.
You're not doing anything anybody favors here by how you're acting.
Which is all the more ridiculous that Selma Blair's 27 playing this role. Like, you're literally playing 20 years younger than your age at this point, regardless of what the script says your age is. The way you're performing as a 7-year-old. And then Ryan Phillippe's like, oh, I hope everything's blossoming down under.
Yeah, Ryan Phillippe is, like, okay, everyone in this is supposed to be between the ages of, let's say, 14 to 17. Like, that's the general high school age. So let's just put everybody there. If Selma Blair is 7, Ryan Phillippe and Sarah Michelle Gellar are, like, 30 minimum. Like, they are so absolutely mature, and they have all these Machiavellian schemes, and they are all so conniving, and they've literally... They have one throwaway line at the beginning saying like, oh, our parents are out in like some faraway country or something and they're doing whatever, to explain why these two people are in charge of this massive penthouse that they live in. It's like, yeah, all right, sure. You guys are basically 30, which I do want to draw attention to, that this was based off of a French novel called Dangerous Liaisons, or at least the French version of that.
Yes.
Published back 1700s, and it was about like French nobility originally, but it was basically the same sort of plot.
Yeah, but they were all older, I assume.
Yes. That was, I mean, the movie 1988, the movie had John Malkovich and Glenn Close, so that should give you a rough idea of the ages there.
Yeah, I've not seen it. Whenever we do 80s erotic thrillers, that'll probably be in the mix for comparison's sake. And we might even end that season with that one as a nice little like spiritual callback to this season.
The equivalent for Selma Blair is Michelle Pfeiffer in that movie.
God, I hope Michelle Pfeiffer wasn't acting like this in that movie.
Be a bit concerning.
Jeez, that was like right before she did Batman Returns, so I can't imagine she is, but
yeah.
Then again, who knows? So yeah, very strange movie. And then, like I said, like my other complaints kind of just boil down to like, the relationship between Ryan Phillippe and Reese Witherspoon's characters. Just I'm just not really buying it. Like there's a pivotal point that I think is a good idea, like halfway or 2/3 through, depending where that lands. But for the most part, though, all of the, like the early hints that he's maybe actually feeling something and is feeling bad about the bet, or you know what he's actually trying to do, just kind of come off a bit weird to me. Like I don't really buy it or feel it. And I think the other big problem I have with it actually is that almost any time Reese Witherspoon, who makes it very clear the second she meets him that she's heard of his reputation and knows what kind of a sleazeball he is, and that he just says anything to convince women to sleep with them, and then that's the end of it, never goes anywhere else. Like, the fact that she even like has little moments where she looks like she's buying into what he's saying just came across as like just wrong to me. Like, no, you know what he is, you know what he's like. How is, like, he's not done anything like special that would sell to me that he is convincing you that he's making a genuine effort beyond just, you know, cheap tricks to try and, you know, get you into bed.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I also do think there are aspects of this where it does show I don't know, as an audience member, you kind of have to discount the parts that only you're seeing. You have to take into account what is Reese Witherspoon's character seeing, and you see Ryan Phillippe's character, Sebastian, if we call him that, is putting on this.
Little Sebastian, please.
Yes, Little Sebastian. In more ways than one, he fits that role. So at this point of the movie, though, he's putting on this act for her, and it's multi-layered in a lot of ways. I'm not saying it's written well, but like in the plot of the movie, he's like on the first layer trying to come across as a good person in general, like saying like, oh, I love charity work, I do all good these good things, I'm a good person. But then she's able to see through that, knows that it's a ruse, and then he starts putting on the, oh yeah, you're right, I'm actually a piece of crap, but like, you're bringing out my better side, you can fix me. And I think it's that different layering aspect of it that makes it so that it's a bit more understandable that Reese Witherspoon is fooled by it, is caught up by it a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know, but it wasn't working for me.
That's fine. I'll agree with you wholly in that the point where they say that he like has fallen for her and he's absolutely there doesn't work for me at all. I don't believe for a second that he's actually feeling things for her.
Yeah. So if that doesn't work for you, because that ultimately has to be the heart of the movie, then, you know, because there's a point towards the end, no spoilers yet, of course, but there is a montage towards the end of like, the memories of their relationship so far. Yeah. And I just like, yeah, this hasn't been that much. I feel like you're milking something that wasn't really, you know, the other's empty.
Yeah. I can't remember what movie it was. It might have even been a TV show, but it was basically like, it was making a joke of it where like a character died after like 5 minutes and they were like, remember all the good times we had? And they just showed like the 3 clips that the character was actually in. And it's like, yeah, such good. It's like, that's what I felt in that moment where it's like, oh, look at all the happy moments that we've shared so far. And it's like, okay, you showed literally everything that could possibly be defined as a happy moment. Was that really your strongest swing? Yes.
So, if anything, it just made my point for me at that point in the movie. So, yeah, rough goings there. It is worth mentioning that, I mean, there is 2 sequels that were direct to video, and who knows, maybe extra reels in the future could tap onto those.
I have seen Cruel Intentions 2.
I think I've seen the start of it. It was one of those things that played in cable a lot.
As much as I remember this movie and remember it as a nice little nostalgic trip, I have no fond memories of the other one. I don't remember it as awful. I just don't remember it.
Fair enough. But it's worth mentioning that in 2016, which it's actually wild that that's like 8 years ago already. But,
yeah, I was gonna say.
But I remember them trying to like reboot the whole thing as a TV show. With Sarah Michelle Gellar coming back, and there was a pilot made, which if you look at IMDb, there's a TV movie, although I don't think it ever actually aired anywhere. But yeah, they tried to do it, and notably the other, like, or the second build in IMDb is the actress from Tokyo Drift. Like, remember the main girl in Fast and the Furious 3?
You're asking for a lot from me here, but sure.
She's the one that liked to drift around corners, because when you're drifting, you feel like you're...
Yes.
Yeah, that character.
Yeah, sure.
The main guy was trying to bang the whole movie.
Look, you can keep saying it, but I don't have a mental picture outside of the car drifting.
Do you know the funny thing is, though, is that it's not like I saw her photo and said, oh, it's her from that. I saw her IMDb photo and I'm like, that IMDb photo looks familiar. I've seen that photo before because she's been in a cast list before. I clicked on her And then that movie came up and I went, oh, that's where I've seen the face before.
Gotcha.
Is when we did that movie. So this was less I recognized her and more I recognized the IMDb profile. But hey.
That's how you know you made it.
Yes. No, I don't have anything else to add because obviously I never saw the TV attempted reboot, but I didn't go anywhere, didn't pick it up for series for whatever reason, so must have sucked.
I mean, they managed to turn it into, like I was saying about that musical, it started in 2015 and it's had like 7 different go-arounds all around the world. London, Australia, LA, off-Broadway, it's been going. That
tells me there's a lot of millennials who are aching for simpler times, who want to hear the pop songs of the era and the indie music of the era. And
our generation has managed to get Broadway levels of money that they can spend on things, and by God, they want to hear Bittersweet Symphony sung to the rafters.
Yeah, not me, the rest of my generation.
Oh yeah, no, you have absolutely no taste, clearly.
I mean money, but I mean, sure, you can say no taste.
Well, okay, yeah, taste.
I'll accept that. Yeah, as far as anything else goes, cast-wise, I mean, there's a few faces you mean, like Christine Baranski, or Baranski, is like Selma Blair's mother. Like, I couldn't tell you what I've seen her in, but she's one of those actors who pops up a lot, especially around this time period. Oh, it's a very small role, but at the start of the movie, I can't believe they got the star of Uwe Boll's Alone in the Dark to be in this movie. Tara Reid's got a small role in here.
Yeah. Yeah, I like how that's how you credit her. But yeah. I'm actually looking at what she did.
David, that I am funny. I'm a funny guy, okay?
Hey, I've done over 100 episodes with you, and I have yet to see evidence. The only thing I'm seeing in here that would have given her any sort of credit beforehand is Big Lebowski, which honestly, filming-wise, that might have been like around the same time.
Well, I mean... Yeah, I mean, American Pie came out the same year as this, though, so she definitely, like, isn't dependent on the release dates. She might have even already been known for that before this came out, but just because obviously,
right. I mean, how it's listed in IMDb as American Pie is after Cruel Intentions, but I don't know if that takes into account like the actual day that it was released.
It might do, yeah, it probably does, but regardless, people have known who she were not too long after this, if they didn't already. It's funny though, because obviously American Pie is the sex comedy of the era, so it's just kind of interesting that someone from that pops up in this in a small role. But yeah, but that's pretty much. There's another character probably worth mentioning. Well, probably a couple really, but Ronald, who's the cellist instructor who's teaching Selma Blair. Sean Patrick Thomas. He's one of those faces that I recognize from a few things from this era. Apparently he was in The Boys he was in Gen V, The Boys spin-off, and he's the dad of a character on there. Now, I didn't recognize him from that, because obviously he's like, 25 years older in that, right? He's much, much older. Although now that I've read it, I can see that. But he was in a few things. I mean, I never saw it, but he was in Save the Last Dance, which was kind of a well-known movie in the early 2000s.
All right, yep. Uncredited Not Another Teen Movie, which was, of course, making fun of all those same movies like Cruel Intentions and whatnot. So.
That is true, yes.
And Halloween Resurrection. You don't recognize Rudy from Halloween Resurrection?
That's what I know his face from. It'll be that. Yep. I just never saw that when I looked in the list. You're right. That's absolutely what I know his face, because he's training to be a chef in that movie. I know it. Yes. It's all clicked.
Don't you just love those moments? The moments where just all of a sudden it's like, yes, that's it. He was there. I saw him before.
It's him. It's Starbuck from the new Battlestar Galactica show. Although that's 20 years old now, but still, it was newer relative to the old one. And Busta Rhymes, of course.
Of course.
Yes. Trick or Treat, Mother Effer.
The only other character, not even a major character, but the psychiatrist at the beginning is Swoosie Kurtz. She seemed very familiar to me, but the only thing that I want to bring her up for is that Dangerous Liaisons movie with Glenn Close and John Malkovich. She was the mother of Selma Blair's character in that.
Huh. So they had like a callback. Oh, she's in a Liar Liar.
That's where I remember her from.
Yeah, that's probably where I know her face from.
She's in the she's the opposing counsel against Jim Carrey.
Yes. And Jim Carrey might try and have sex with her? I can't remember. It's been a while.
No. Maybe. I don't. Yeah, it's been a while.
I don't know either.
Jim Carrey season eventually. We'll get there.
Oh, she was episode of Lost, playing Locke's dad.
Okay.
Dad, mom.
I was going to say, I was very confused by that.
She plays Emily Locke. I'm assuming that's meant to be his mother in a flashback. Right. I'm assuming. Anyway, there you go. But that's pretty much it for the cast, I think. Director, notably, the director did do the pilot for the new show that they tried to do.
Well, yeah, this was his first directorial debut, and he also did the sequel, and so I guess they just wanted to bring him back on for that one as well.
Has he done anything else remotely?
It's up for debate. A couple TV shows, obviously. He made the circles on a few of those. The Sweetest Thing, I don't know about that one. Just Friends was one where Ryan Reynolds is fat, and he tries to land a girl.
Yeah, The Sweetest Thing was right after Cruel Intentions 2, and then Just Friends was 2005. So he basically just went into like single TV episodes after that for different things. So.
Notably, though, it is all stuff like Pretty Little Liars and Revenge. It's all those teen shows where the teens get up to way too much adult stuff.
Which means that he's either just been typecast as a director or he's a pervert.
Why not both, Pete?
Could be both, yeah, it could be both. But the difference is he happy about it or not? If he's a pervert, he's probably happy about it. If he's not, then he's just like... It is exactly like directors who want to do real movies but end up doing porn and they're just kind of stuck there because they get given those jobs.
Right, right. The other thing is he was a writer before he became a director, and the only major thing he did was National Lampoon's Senior Trip, which I didn't even know that was a National Lampoon title.
Yeah, I never heard of it.
Yep.
Okay, well, only the best for collector's cut, only the top auteurs.
I would love to see this guy like somehow sneak in a Criterion film and we just didn't even know it.
I would be willing to bet you everything I own that he does not have a movie in the Criterion collection as a director. Like, if you give me one where he's like, he did like, oh, he helped with the lighting on this movie, then fair enough. He was
the gaffer in Personal Shopper. Give me everything you own.
Oh, his career really went downhill if he was doing gaffing work.
Yeah.
In 2016 or whatever. No, 2021, whatever year that came out.
Yeah.
All right. Spoilers, wedges to spoilers.
Sure. Why not? We can talk about everything except the movie for a while and then just get into it.
Well, you like to usually bring up the score if I've forgotten to mention it right before spoilers.
We already talked about it, yeah.
Oh, no, we didn't. The point I was going to make is there is no score practically.
Oh, well, if we're talking about, like, you know, symphony score, yes. I was talking more about how the soundtrack is one of the most nostalgic things you're going to hear ever.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've never heard people refer to songs as score. Like, the score is written, composed music. The soundtrack can mean both, although typically I would say soundtrack for songs, just so that I'm differentiating between them. But technically, soundtrack can mean both.
That's fair. I get all blurry when we did the Rocky quote-unquote score / soundtrack because it was also its own song, so
well yeah,
I just kind of take
had a healthy amount of both. Well,
right,
until you got to 4 and it really pivoted to one side, but it did have a healthy dose of both in the like third movie. Anyway, yeah, spoilers for Cruel Intentions. You have been warned.
Everyone has sex with everybody else. The end.
All right, thanks for watching, everyone. We can, yeah, I mean, the opening of the movie is, you know, outside of the really sort of, you know, song of the era to kick us off as it's doing whatever. The opening of the movie is a therapy session where apparently Ryan Phillippe's character Little Sebastian, as he's with his therapist, and he's clearly his therapist doesn't like him very much, and he keeps saying he's cured of like being addicted to thinking about sex, and she just sort of takes his word for it, clearly not giving a shit if he actually is cured, because he's clearly not, right? He's clearly just saying all the things that he's supposed to say.
He literally comes up to her, he's just like, by the way, you have nice legs and I'd really like to photograph them. Is something I would have said if I were still the old me.
Yeah, I got the impression that the reason why this was like court ordered or something, because because they hint later on that he did something to the school nurse, and this was like, I assumed this might have been related to that, like he had to go to therapy for sex addiction or something.
I mean, I could see it. I didn't get that it was court ordered, especially with how the sequence ends, where clearly she wouldn't be signing off on anything at the end of that, but...
She just cares about doing her book tour, though. That's her whole thing. She wants to go on her book tour. But he starts making eyes at the photo of her daughter on her desk, which happens to be Tara Reid. And he mentions, I should be with a girl like that. And she's like, oh, she's out of your league. No offense. And he finally gets rid of him, sits down, daughter's on the phone, and she's crying her eyes out because someone took photos of her, dirty photos, and put them on the internet. And it turns out that it's him because, and you can see his photograph on her desk, right, on Tara Reid's desk. But it's when she says the exact same thing that he said. It's like, he said that I had nice legs and that he wanted to photograph them. And that's when the therapist realizes, so she storms over to the window and looks down the balcony and like starts yelling, you little shit, I'm going to get you for this.
Meanwhile, there's already another girl who he's like, let me take you out to lunch. Let's get going.
Yeah. And then the implication later, because we don't see any more of her. Next time we see him, he's arriving back at home and meets up with Catherine, his sister, his stepsister, played by Gellar. And he basically just implies, oh yeah, we had sex, she wanted me to call her, and he literally throws the phone number this girl gave him to Catherine, who then wipes her nose with it. And so, clearly not attached to his afternoon fling.
And again, this is the opening scene. I could see like, okay, he's putting on an act, he's doing all this stuff. It's very over the top for the sake of it's an act, it's a performance. Once we get this sequence between Gellar and Phillippe, I cannot overstate how over the top all of their performances are. They are all absolutely unbelievably evil in all of the ways you can imagine. And it's not good. Like, it's not a believable performance, but there's something in the cliche corniness of it that I don't know, I find funny.
I mean, it's mildly amusing. I'll maybe say that, but I wouldn't say I super enjoyed it. Like this is going to be a weird comparison for you because you didn't like the movie, but I never found myself enjoying watching either of these two plot and scheme the way that I did in Last Seduction, where I thought that character came across like a little bit more subtle and therefore more of a mastermind, whereas these characters, like, I'm like, a big part of this movie is that Sarah Michelle Gellar's character Catherine is like, okay, she's an evil bitch, she likes to sleep around and manipulate people, and she's got a cocaine problem, she's got cocaine in her little crucifix thing that she opens and snorts, and she's determined to like maintain her like perfect girl like reputation, and she doesn't want that to change, and that obviously is a big thing for the ending, is that finally gets crumbled. But all I could think is like, how has no one caught you saying something? Because the amount of times in this movie someone like turns around and she like drops the act and says, oh, what an asshole that guy is. Like, how did you not hear her? How is no one catching her be evil? Because she's so blatant, like a split second as soon as you walk away.
You just want one character, like the sequence plays out the exact same, but the one character just pops their head back and be like, excuse me, you say something? And he's like, no, nothing, bye.
Because this is what sets up the movie, because Selma Blair's sitting there, right? Her character's Cecil, and she's with her mother, and her mother's saying, hey, my daughter's starting this Manchester school. You're going to look out for her, aren't you, Catherine? And she's like, yes, of course I am. And
I'm a perfect little princess, and everything's great.
And as we pointed out earlier, Cecil's sitting there in like this goofy big t-shirt with a koala on it, and she, she's dressed like a kid, whereas Catherine... he's got a really smart kind of like sort of lady suit on and is looking very proper. Obviously, as soon as those characters leave the room, she sort of like takes her jacket off and it's a bit sluttier. But it, like all of her outfit, even when she's being nice, is very mature. She's definitely dressing for an older age. Like that's kind of the vibe you get. So there's a contrast between her and Cecil in the scene where you can tell there's a gulf of like personality and experience between the two.
Right. So that's one of the major running themes in this movie, and they outright say it later on, is the idea of how important appearances are.
Yes.
How important this idea of keeping up a reputation and being seen a very specific way is. And obviously the characters that theoretically you should like the most by the end of the movie are the ones who don't care about that stuff, the ones who just do what they want the way they want to do it. And the ones who have like convictions that they can really stick to. So Phillippe, Sebastian, and Catherine are both characters who they are all about the appearance of being these you know, very snobby, very uptight people, but who are very successful, who are very well looked upon by even like this mother character who's saying, "Oh, you're gonna make my daughter like you because look at her."
Well, I think one of the things to point out as well, though, is they have very different reputations, and I think one of the ironic, or not ironic, but one of the things that the movie is doing is that it's pointing out that for him a good reputation is someone who has sex a lot, whereas for Catherine it's the opposite. She has to pretend that she doesn't have sex a lot and be the perfect little princess to be respected and seen as a good lady, whereas he wants the reputation of being someone who gets a lot of babes. He wants to have that, and that's part of the irony of like him realizing he has to fight what that reputation is that, oh, I actually want to be good by the end of the movie, and that means shedding what I actually do.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Exactly.
So yeah, you've got that going, and so this is where Gellar's character Catherine kind of like lays out that she's mad at this guy who we basically never meet, some guy named Court, right? Who she was dating, I think earlier this summer. I think it was like July, right? Because I think
they said it was like a 4th of July party.
Yeah, but that's where she got dumped, was 4th of July.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay. And she says, "Oh, I put a lot of effort into making him happy," and it shows her head coming up from the car as if she was giving him a blowjob. But she's mad because it turns out Court dumped her and then took Cecil out on a date, which makes me question how much of a predator this Court guy is, because this girl is so young acting that I can't, like, whatever, baffling. Oh, yeah. Right? Yeah. But Cecil wants to destroy, or sorry, Catherine wants to destroy Cecil as a way of getting back at Court, right? She wants to, like, annihilate her and humiliate her and ruin her life and all these things, and she wants Sebastian's help. Sebastian says, "No, I've got my own problems. There's this, like, super virgin in this magazine. I want to try and have sex with her." And Catherine says, "You'll never be able to do that. Well, why don't we put a bet on it?" And that's where the bet of the movie comes from, where it's like, okay, if you can have sex with her, I get your fancy car, which the movie's already like shown him driving multiple times at this point. Yeah.
It's like a 1950s sort of like very vintage looking car.
Yeah. However, if Sebastian does successfully have sex with Annette, the super tranquil virgin, then Catherine will let him have what he's been wanting since their parents got married, which is the dirty little stepsister who is the one person who says no to him and constantly teases him. Like, and she does. Like, it's worth mentioning throughout this entire scene, she's like putting her leg between his legs. She's wrapping herself around him. Like, there's a lot of like to the point where, like, because I'd forgotten a lot of this movie, I was convinced they'd already been having sex until the terms of the bet came up, and I went, "Oh, okay, you've not actually went through with it yet. You're just teasing the shit out of him constantly."
Yeah, strangely enough, like I remembered the bet, I remembered their setup there, but I only remembered it because it was lifted wholesale over into Not Another Teen Movie.
Oh, sure.
Where the stepsister was just like blatantly hitting on Chris Evans's character, and he's just like, God, why do you keep doing this? Get out of here.
Yeah. Wait, is Cruel Intentions to blame for like 50% of porn being about step-siblings?
I'm not going to say yes, but I think that it deserves some looking into.
It awoken something in a lot of millennials in 1999, and we've never looked back.
Well, when did it start? Because maybe it was when that off-Broadway show started, and they were like, "Oh, wait a minute, hold on, step-siblings? That was a thing?"
Someone can go research it. When did step-sibling porn become a thing?
That's gonna be 3 months from now. That's gonna be an edited video on the Mild Fuzz channel.
It will not.
A deep dive into when did that become a thing.
Anyway, so this sets up the bet. It's okay, there's a goal, which is good. The movie has a goal, but it also sets up that Catherine still has her goal to ruin Cecil's life. So we're also following that's kind of a subplot effectively, but it kind of like trades blows with the main plot at times, and honestly in some ways is more interesting, even though it's the one that I have more problems with in terms of just feeling uncomfortable, because I think like I said, the portrayal of Cecil's age and how she acts is so weird and young that it makes stuff like her being talked into oral sex when she doesn't really want to do it just feel especially like skeevy.
Yeah. I mean, look, we can keep coming back to it. We keep saying how creepy it gets, but like, ultimately it's either something that you can move past or you can't move past.
Yeah.
And I think you and I are both on the same side of it's like right on the border of can't move past. It's right there where it's like a bit uncomfortable at some points.
Yeah. But yeah, this is where it pivots into those separate plots going. So
I will say they lay down the rules of the bet saying like the consequences of failure, but they never put a time limit or anything on this. So theoretically, Sebastian could just be like 40 and being like, I'll get around to it. Don't worry, well, I'm close.
No, to be fair, I mean, it's not a strict time limit, but I think part of the bet is that you because she's her dad's the new headmaster of the school, the new principal.
Right.
I think the time limit of the bet is that he's supposed to have sex with her before school starts. The idea is that he'll have banged the head teacher's daughter before the start of term. I think that was the gist of it. So I think there is kind of a limit in that sense, but they never really bring it up again. Like, you know, like Catherine never says TikTok, you've only got 2 weeks or anything like that. There's never like a feeling of like escalation in that sense.
Yeah, honestly, if you ask me how long over a period of time this movie took, I would say it feels kind of like 2 weeks. Like it doesn't feel very long, but there's also clearly some amount of time skipped as well.
It's actually weird because some of the events in the movie feel like it should be over more time, but the way they talk about things, it does feel like it isn't actually that much time. So,
right,
you know, it's like I think at one point when Catherine brings Sebastian back into her plot because she needs help moving her plan along with Cecile or Cecil. Is it Cecile or Cecil?
I just kept calling Selma Blair.
Yeah, okay, Selma Blair, whatever. When that happens, she basically says, "Oh, hey, like I need her to like be with this other guy in about 2 weeks, so you've got like 2 weeks to like advance her like sexual awakening along," which I felt was a really short span of time to like do that to someone. Like, Jesus Christ, you need to build up to that a little bit, but it's there's no building up. He basically just corners her and
He basically plays like, as we were saying, the age stuff. He plays like a toddler level trick on her, of just like, now I'm gonna make you promise that you're gonna let me give you a kiss, and she's like, okay, I promise, and then he's like, all right, but I didn't say where. Ho ho ho! Like, it's weird in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's definitely where the movie feels like it's crossing some weird lines. Because even that like starts off with her, like she's lying on the bed and he takes a photo and she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's also, by the way, got her drunk without her knowing she was drinking alcohol, right? Because she's like, "Oh, this doesn't taste like an iced tea," as she's like getting kind of woozy. And he's like, "Oh, it's from Long Island." And I'm like, okay, so I'm not going to say that counts as a roofie, but it's like kind of, you know, if she didn't know she was being given alcohol, there's kind of a line being crossed there too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's purposely intoxicating her.
Yeah. But anyways, he's like, "Oh, you know, but, you know, maybe you could look sexy though." And she's like, "I can look sexy." And she starts like posing, and it's kind of silly. You know, she's doing a terrible job. But then he just like undoes her top. It's like, "Oh, Dad, now that's sexy. I'll take another photo." And do you want to be even sexier if you lost all the clothes? And
to be fair to her, that's the point where she's like, now hold on. But I feel like that's crossing a line. And that's where he pulls out like the, "You're right, I'm sorry. How about just a kiss instead?" And then he does that, and it's like, all right, well, clearly she has no agency for herself at this point.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And this all feeds into a larger game, which is that Catherine wants to set up an affair between Cecile and her music instructor, right? That's was Ronald is his name. Because she walks in on them earlier on when he's giving her a lesson, and he's kind of like sitting behind her, like sort of like showing her how to like hold the cello, and it's very like, oh, she's in between his legs and his arms are around her, and it does look like there is a bit of a, you know, tension happening. Like the clearly he's like noticing that he's around her, and she's kind of feeling it too. But again, given how young she acts throughout most of the movie, it does make him look like a creep for even wanting to go on with this.
Bro, there is a sequence in this movie shortly after that where after she's determined that she's going to make this happen, Catherine is watching them through like a nanny cam, and Selma Blair's like, "I told them I could do like a great cartwheel and they didn't believe me, so I did this." And she like stands on her head in a skirt, and her skirt just falls open in front of Ronald, and you see him like, yeah? And it's like,
and then they almost kiss. Like he goes in for a kiss after that, and they just get interrupted.
But like the way they're talking, the way she's saying like, oh yeah, I did a somersault, and then like she's completely unaware of her skirt just being open in front of this guy, and I'm like, this isn't you flirting. You're not even aware of what you're doing right now. You are legitimately 6 years old.
Do you think they meant it to be intentional flirting? Do you think this was like advice she got from Catherine, and this is her trying to like flash something at him to like excite him, but it comes across this way?
If so, it did, like, that is a failure on the director's part that he did not manage to get that across.
I'm trying to give it some benefit of some doubt. Like some.
I mean, I will say that according to IMDb trivia, which take with a grain of salt, during the casting process for this, everyone was coming in, giving their lines, doing whatever, but they had to, you know, ask the character's age because they were going to be doing some sexually explicit stuff, or I should say the actress's age. And so when Selma Blair got into her audition, they were like, all right, could you please tell us how old you are? And she's like, can you please tell us how old you are? Like, she purposely was acting sassy right off the bat, and the director was like unable to shake that, and so she ended up getting the role. So she's been running with that since literally the first time she was ever even auditioned, playing this childish persona.
It's such a weird choice. I don't get it. It doesn't work at all. But yeah, like, so yeah, her whole plan is to set up this relationship, and then she intentionally rats her out to her mum, right, and tells her mum, hey, I heard this is happening, like, you know, some love letters.
They've been writing love letters, and it's all hidden inside her room in this space that I found out that she told me in confidence.
And I was thinking, wait, did you fake these letters? Because it doesn't feel like enough time has passed that he's been writing her letters. But then it turns out I think he was just writing her letters, so I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's been going on for some time, I guess.
Yeah, weird. But this was actually one of the funny cuts. I mean, also the casual racism from the mum character, where Sarah Michelle Gellar's saying, hey, I know she's so young and he's so, and then the mum goes black and like sort of like and then catches herself going, oh, I can't say that. I'm talking about the coffee. I'm talking about the coffee. Don't make me.
Like, person brings up coffee and she's like, brown sugar. I mean, no sugar. Jesus.
But then Sarah Michelle Gellar's like, hey, you're going to promise me though you're going to be discreet about this and not like tell her, you know. Smash cut to her storming into the music lesson, like, what have you done to my daughter? Get your hands off of her. It's
literally like they're just having like a totally like flaccid moment. Like, they're not flirting at all. He's standing practically across the room watching her play the cello, and she storms in like, where the hell do you get off corrupting my daughter?
And obviously, yeah, says some more casual racist stuff, which he does kind of point out. But dude, kind of just rolls with.
It's still just as equally as timely. It's like he points out, like, well, you know, I'm hoping that you can move past that at this day and age. And she's like, don't give me that. I donated to Colin Powell. And she's like, well, I guess that puts me in my place. Yeah. Bye.
Actually, the line I liked from him was when she said, you did this after we got you off the street.
Yeah.
And he's like, I live on, like, you know, I don't know New York, but somewhere I assume is a decent area. Because he's like, I live on 59th Street. What are we talking about?
Yeah. Earlier on, they have him explicitly say, like, I'm going for my doctorate in, like, music theory or whatever. Like, he's explicitly very well off.
I would actually really like this character. He's arguably the funniest and most likable if it wasn't for the fact that he's pursuing a relationship with a girl who actually she's 7.
Yeah.
Right? That's the one big thing against this guy, because otherwise I probably would like him.
If it wasn't for the casual pedophilia, he'd be chill.
Because all the ways he snaps back with and it's really just this one scene more than anything, but like you know, the way he snaps back against the mum is actually kind of witty and funny, but yeah, he does look like a creep because of the rest of his plot.
But then, yeah, just continuing on with that plot, we see that it was actually, you know, all of this was up to plan. They knew that she'd overreact, and so they're both waiting at the end of the elevator when he gets down there to say, oh, you're in love with her, she's in love with you, it needs to happen, go, write her some letters, and we'll get you guys in a relationship secretly.
Yes, but part of this is that Catherine wants Sebastian to help her, like, blossom sexually, so she's, you know, get her at least up to the tipping point where she's ready to go full sex with Ronald. So
yes,
he does the whole thing where he plays a trick on her and kind of basically assaults her into giving her oral sex. And she kind of like describes that to Catherine the next day and is like, thinks that, oh, it was weird and it tickled. But then she sort of describes an explosion, but a happy explosion.
Yeah. I love when she's whispering it into Catherine's ear, because Catherine is like, well, what did he do to you? Did he do something wrong? And she's like, I don't know. And she starts whispering it, and you see Sarah Michelle Gellar's face just like, all right, it's working. And then the moment she pulls back away, she's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. He did all that.
Yeah. And then it kind of progresses from there, and then we don't see it, but like, yeah, it cuts to them later, Cecil and Sebastian, and they've had sex, and Sebastian's not that interested in her. He's just kind of like, okay, I've done what I promised her I'd do, Catherine, so I'll that's me, I'm reading my paper now. And he literally pushes Selma Blair out of the bed when she tries to engage in more sex. But this, on you go.
No, it's payoff to a double joke, though, because just earlier on, when she's being congratulated for becoming a woman, she goes to hug Sarah Michelle Gellar, and she just pushes her off the couch. She's like, okay, don't touch me, don't do that. And then follows up in like almost the very next scene with her being like, oh yeah, you want to do it again? And he's like, nope, off the bed.
Yeah, and this is the scene where like she's trying to act grown up because she feels grown up now, because he says he's going for a shower, and she's like, oh, do you want some company? And he's like, no. Sure you don't want a blowjob? No.
Slams the door,
and then she's like, out. How rude. And I'm like, yeah, she still feels like a little kid. Like she's like, she's had sex, but she still feels like she's talking like a little kid here, and in the way that she's processing it. And yeah, so that entire plot line's like,
yeah. And then the furthest we can go without it intersecting again is that somehow Catherine has managed to seduce Ronald into sleeping with her.
Yeah, separately, yeah.
Wants to keep that as a thing for a while, I guess.
Yeah, but otherwise, yeah, it mostly just comes back in when it gets dragged back into the other plot. But, I mean, yeah, that's kind of most of it there. But needless to say, he does it like Ronald and Cecil do end up together. Like, when he comes back out of the plot later, he wakes up next to her. So they clearly have turned this into some kind of a relationship.
Right.
Which is, which to be fair, there is a nice little payoff in context to that, because the whole thing at the start of the movie with Sarah Michelle Gellar's character is that she was pissed that a guy dumped her for a little like goody two shoes, like sweet girl, and it effectively happens again because Ronald doesn't show up for like a sex date because he's made plans. Well, technically Ryan Phillippe's he's kind of done a little bit of this planning himself.
Yeah, He's connived and managed to hook them back up again.
Yeah, but the idea that he is once again encouraged someone to like dump her for the same woman that was already
the same girl.
It's literally the same girl that she got dumped for before. So it's happened to her twice. Which is probably the reason why she liked sleeping with him in the first place, though, is because this is who Cecil wants, and because she took my man. And it's not even like, again, it's very clear whatever date her old boyfriend Court took Cecil on, it clearly wasn't that much of a thing, because it was like lunch or something, and
it's 100%. The tagline to this movie on all the posters is you always want the most what you can't have.
Yes,
it's always this idea of that, and that is absolutely in Catherine's character here, where she doesn't care about Court at all. Like, she has no feelings for him. She doesn't want any sort of long-term thing. But it's the fact that he left on his own accord rather than her, like, dismissing him. And therefore, she's basically getting revenge on the girl who caused it by taking her love interest, taking her boyfriend. Again, no connection. Doesn't care about him. It's strictly because she shouldn't have him.
To go along with this as well, obviously we'll go back and talk about the rest of the plot. But it happens to her again, and what really scorns her is that when she's like, all right, you know what? You won the bet, Ryan Phillippe, Sebastian. Let's do it. F me now. And he's like, no, I don't want to. And he walks out. And once again, the guy who's wanted her the whole time that she based this whole bet around is saying, no, I would rather go and be with the nice girl instead. So it's effectively happening to her again through that side of the plot as well, which just makes her wanting to ruin his life now. And that's a big thing that happens later on in the movie. So
that's basically the third act switch.
It's probably the best through line in the movie is her character beat of like that being the motivation. Like every time that happens to her, it like scorns her into wanting to do something more evil. And that is consistent throughout. So I'll give the movie that.
Yeah, I could fully see someone writing a college paper thesis sort of thing on the psychology of Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, because it's very consistent, it's very well fleshed out, and you can draw a lot of conclusions even from just the smaller points she makes and the smaller actions that she does over the course of the movie.
Yeah, sure. So that may sound sarcastic. I didn't mean it to. I was just thinking my next point.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, whatever, David. Stupid thing you're saying. Now, back to the other plot. We need to talk about the lack of romance between Ryan Phillippe and Reese Witherspoon.
Mm-hmm.
She's on a horse. That's how this starts.
That sums it up. There you go.
She's on a horse, and he makes sure he's there because it just so happens that Reese Witherspoon just coincidentally, and admittedly this may be why he made her like a target in the first place because he knew this, but coincidentally she is staying at his aunt's house. His aunt's got a big estate in like northern New York or wherever it is, somewhere outside the city, and he makes it a point of staying there too so he can strike, so he can go in and try and lose her. And he tries to talk to her, and very quickly she's like, yeah, you know what, I was warned about you. Someone sent me a letter explaining your antics and who you are, and that you're a bit of a man whore. And he's like, oh, I'm offended. And she's like, why? Is it not true? And he's like, I'm going to go away now.
Yeah. Smash cut over to him talking to Joshua Jackson, who is the super duper gay best friend.
Yes.
And he's just like, who in the hell blabbed their mouth off and told this girl from out of town that I am exactly who I claim to be?
Yes. So it does turn out to be Cecile's mother, I think, is the answer eventually. But
yeah, they go through the side plot first.
Yeah, yes, obviously we're going to talk about that, but that's who the answer ends up being. But for a while, they make an assumption, right, based on very little evidence, that it's this guy that's on the football team, right?
Yeah, the evidence being is that he dated her at some point, so there's a connection there, and he has reason to hate him.
Yes, but it also turns out that he is secretly gay, and Joshua Jackson's been pumping him in the background, in the back something anyway, behind closed doors for some time. And he's like, okay, right, lure him into like get him over for sex, and I'm going to come in, take a photograph, and then we can blackmail him into like doing whatever I need him to, which is basically what happens. And he's like, hey, you blabbed to her, and he's like, no, I didn't, I swear. I know who she is. Yes, I've been friends with her, but I did not talk. I didn't do that. And he's like, okay, well, in that case, you're going to help me.
Yeah, I even love Joshua Jackson. Like, he had his own little conniving plan going on there, because he was like, oh yeah, I should have mentioned, like, he doesn't have the capacity to write a letter. He's an idiot. Like, there's no way it was him. I don't know why I suggested it in the first place. Oh well.
Yeah, he just wanted more sex.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, basically he is now a double agent, and he goes and asks her, hey, who told you all those things about Ryan Phillippe, about Sebastian? Because Sebastian, let me tell you, is a great guy. He's always looking out for me. He's always got my back. He's really smart. He's really amazing. I swear I'm not gay.
Super sexy, would totally go down. I mean, who told you what?
Amusingly, Ryan Phillippe's in MacGruber, and when you said that joke there, I just flashed to MacGruber when he's doing the whole, I'll F you, you can F me, whose dick do I have to suck? How many dicks do I have to suck? like I just, I don't know, it made me think of that.
No, it fits.
Yeah. Anyway, where was it going with that? Oh yeah,
so yeah, she tells him it's Cecile's mother, and then Ryan Phillippe's like, well, that just gives me more reason to work in on that B plot.
Yep, there's a bit of motivation, so he's more willing to help Catherine. But the actual main plot here of him and her is like, he tries to get her alone in the pool, and she actually seems gun-ho to go swimming late at night with him. But of course, he intentionally is naked when she first shows up. And she's like, oh my god, that's so embarrassing, as if it wasn't absolutely his plan from the beginning to do this. Painfully odd. It makes her look a bit dumb, to be honest, to not just call that out. But then when he tries to make some moves in the pool, and when I say moves, he really just says some stuff, but he's clearly trying to like direct the conversation.
Like, she brings up the boyfriend at this point, because she does have a boyfriend who's okay with the whole no sex thing. And he's like, oh, it's kind of weird you've waited this long not to mention him. Maybe you don't want him to be brought up at all, wink wink.
Yeah. But she storms out of that scene, but then the next day or whatever, like the auntie's like, oh, I was meant to go and help at the old folks home and volunteer, but I can't. Maybe you two would like to go. And she's like, oh, that'd be great. And he's like, yeah, that'd be great. And he clearly doesn't want to do it.
I love this reaction here because he's all smiles and rainbow. He's like, of course I'd like to go. That's great. And then like as he leans down out of frame, he just puts a little gun to his head, like in his fingers, and just great, fantastic.
Yeah, so when he's with like an old lady who clearly has like a short-term memory loss, right, via dementia, whatever it may be, he just like he says things intentionally that he can get away with only because she won't remember. And clearly he tells her that, oh, we played backgammon 3 times and you beat me all 3 times. I'm like, that never happened. You're just telling her that, and she can't remember that she did that.
Oh yeah, he's just sitting there doing the crossword. Like he's not even looking at her. He's just like, no, remember we did this then. And she's like, did we? Oh, that's wonderful.
And a key point in this relationship is on the drive home. This is probably the first time where they really make an effort to say, hey, there's a real moment here. Because because he's saying, oh yeah, it was great. I loved helping old people. She was a really cool old lady. And she's like, you don't really think that, do you? And he actually admits, you know what? No, it was torture. I hate old people and I hate charity. It was boring. And I guess that makes me a terrible person. And she's like, nah, it doesn't make you terrible. And I'm like, okay, I get what you're doing here, movie. You're saying that she's seeing a real bit of him, right? Like this is a genuine moment where he's admitting something real to an extent.
See, but I didn't get that. I didn't get that at all. What I got in this scene is that
he's still playing with layers. Okay, sure.
Yeah,
right.
like that was layer 1. We're still on layer 2 here.
But in theory, that's what's, from her perspective, happening, right?
Yes, from her perspective.
Right.
Yes.
And she goes to hold his hand, like, right after this, and I thought, okay, even if there was, like, a little fraction there of, like, you thinking, oh, I can fix him, because he's opening up about his problems to me now, he's showing me the real him, it felt like a bit of a stretch to be immediately at hand-holding. So that already I am like, okay, this isn't working for me, you're rushing too far, she looks an idiot now.
Right. Well, the problem I have with this sequence is that she makes some offhanded comment after he gets to layer 2 of just saying like, oh, you take yourself too seriously. That's your problem. You do that. And I'm sitting there like, yes, that's exactly. He's so over the top too seriously. But it still feels like layer 2 to me. And so then what she starts doing is just starts making silly faces at him, like trying to get him to loosen up, to laugh. And it works. He does start laughing. But from my viewpoint as a watcher of this movie, it still felt like layer 2 to me. It didn't feel like she was breaking through to him. It felt like this was all intentional on his part. So when they then played this back later as the start of when things like really started working, I'm like, no, that was all a ploy.
It's almost the very next scene where he kind of like mutters to himself, she made me laugh. No one's ever made me laugh before. Am I feeling things? Like, so the bit of the journey that I actually kind of like, and like so much of this like quote unquote romance is him being hot and cold and her being hot and cold, and he's kind of doing it intentionally to try and like finagle a sex situation out of her, and he kind of makes this big play a little bit later where he goes to the room and says, you know what, you're so hot and cold with me, I can't take it anymore, I've actually fallen in love with you and it's making me feel inadequate, so I'm going to leave. And it's super manipulative, it works. She says, hey, stop, like, and he calls her a hypocrite because, oh, you said you'd wait for love, and now love's staring at you in the face, and you're not accepting it. And I'm like, yeah, that's super manipulative. You're basically just saying, it's exactly what she said you would do. You're saying anything that will get her into bed, which you're doing, and it is going to work. And she starts to undress, she kisses him, she sits there in the bed, and he's like, wait a minute, I can't do this, and he leaves. And to be fair, I think this is an okay idea in the movie's part. The idea being that he's about to actually succeed, but because he knows it's all being fake and he's actually starting to have feelings for her, he's like, I can't actually do this to her because this is awful. Now, admittedly, even with that, it doesn't really make me feel better about all the other shitty things he's done in the movie, though. It's not like he's redeemed himself for what he did to Cecile or what he did to anyone else.
I will say they tried to pull a little something earlier on where just before they started really getting deep into the Ronald plan and like doing all the stuff to mess them up, he specifically stops Catherine from calling whoever it is and says, hey, can we just stop and consider that we are about to absolutely destroy a completely innocent girl's life, and that's really, really messed up? And Catherine's like, okay, gonna keep going. And he seems somewhat to be making, like, at this point, a little turn in his life because of the impact that she has made of trying to make him a better person.
Yeah, but the movie also started with him doing, like, revenge porn as as something to get back at his therapist for overcharging him. Like that's how the movie started.
And it also implies that has been his behavior for at least 5 to 10 years. Like, it is not something where, oh, he made a few mistakes along the way, and now he's learning again.
Hold on, 10 years ago, he's meant to be like 6.
But again, he's also like 30 at the same time, so I don't know.
I'm just saying, like, I'm sure he was a little shit when he was younger, but I suspect it was less to do with sex crimes.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm sure he just did, like, totally normal things for a 6-year-old, like kicking puppies and burning ants.
Yes. Yeah. Possibly punching people or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Punching pregnant women and running away.
Okay, anyway, so yeah, but on its own, I think this is a good point for him to actually finally, for real, question what he's doing, even though I don't think it's enough to make me think he's redeeming himself for all the other shitty things he's done, because all the things he's done have been pretty nefarious, and to be fair, a lot of the things he's done is exactly the sort of stuff that, like, the Me Too movement's about. Let's be honest. Yeah. Like, he's right on that line, and some of it is just straight up criminals activity.
Well, what I really like about this moment is that it's not a sudden realization for him. It is the breakdown of his conscience. It is 100% him not being able to go through with something, but he himself does not understand why, because he runs into the next room and you see him, like, tears going down his face. He's staring at himself in the mirror, and he tells himself, like, get it together. Like, stop crying. You're being such a pussy. And I like that moment where he, like, logically, in his head, his front brain, he wants to do this. He knows this is something he wants to do, but something deeper down that he's unfamiliar with, this new conscience, is stopping him. And he still is in the mindset of, I want to do this. Why can't I? And it's that crisis that he's coming up against here. Yeah. You can see how you could have a good version of this based on this moment. I don't think on its own's enough to actually succeed, but... Oh, no, it's because it plays the same moment like 3 times later on. It doesn't work because it cheapens it each time. Yeah.
Also, it does this thing where he, like, so... He basically says, no, I can't do this. And when he gets up in the morning, she's already left. And Catherine kind of mocks and says, oh, you didn't seal the deal? And she's literally lying on top of him when he wakes up, when they're having this conversation. Oh, she went to stay with friends because she didn't want to be here with you anymore. So he actually, like, makes calls. He calls the gay football player again, says, hey, do you know where she is? Like, tell me where she is. I need to find her. And he does the whole rom-com bit of being at the top of the escalator in the train station when she's coming up from the subway, and it does this, dramatic reveal of him at the top of the escalator, and she sees him and they kiss, and it's all romantic.
I mean, you say the rom-com thing. I feel like this may have been the codifier of that. I feel like this may be one of the better known examples of that moment.
I mean, I don't remember it. What I will say, though, is the look in his face did not give me romantic when she was coming up that escalator. The look he had in his face was, I'm going to gut your insides and, like, have sex with your, like, skull. That's what I saw from his face.
Here's the thing. I just get that from Ryan Phillippe, like, all the time. So it's a little bit iffy for me. What didn't sell it any better was that as Reese Witherspoon is stepping off the escalator, she's still, like, nervously looking around. Like, she's not locking eyes or even, like, smiling at him. She's just like, all right, yeah, you're here. Okay, whatever.
But, they play this in the montage later as one of their big romantic moments, but they do kiss. And it basically just cuts to them, like, it's a close-up of their faces as they're having sex. Like, it's happening. Yeah. Like, they're doing it.
And they specifically focus on the fact that he is seemingly being very gentle, very caring. This is not him finishing the bet for the sake of finishing the bet. It's something that is done out of a place of love and caring.
Yes. What really bugs me about this last, like, 25 minutes of the movie or whatever it is the fact that he's already kind of, like, did the whole, in the order to trick her, right, before the night before, he did the whole, oh, I'm calling this off because I can't be around you. And then they do this big romantic thing where it's supposedly real and they actually have sex. The very next time he sees her after this scene is him breaking up with her. Now, he's got a reason for it. It's because Catherine's threatened to, like, like, tell the headmaster and ruin his reputation. and basically hold it over him because she's jealous. Now she's pissed that she's feeling turned down by him, that she's going nuclear on him, and that's all fine or whatever. So he goes over to Annette, and he's like, "Hey, this isn't working for me. I thought I loved you, but I don't." And she kind of calls bullshit on. It's like, "Why are you saying this? I don't believe this." But he just keeps saying it.
She literally points out, like, you are shaking and crying, and clearly you don't believe a word of this, but you're doing it anyway.
But he keeps saying it, and ultimately goes through with it to whatever extent, right? And it really annoyed me that almost, again, the very next scene after that, he's with Catherine again, and basically, just by the end of this scene, Catherine's like, "Oh, you realize I still won, right? Because you, like, basically pushed away and hurt the first person you ever actually loved. I made you do that because I'm an evil bitch. I got what I wanted." And immediately he starts trying to call Annette again to patch things up. And I'm like, that's all it took? Like I just like,
no, that's the thing. It's that same moment again. It's the thing of, oh, I'm ruining this relationship. She runs away. I'm not going to do it. And then he's waiting at the top of the subway stairs. And then we just do the exact thing again, except this time it's technically Catherine's fault. Like, it doesn't hit any different. It feels like the same moment, and it happens so soon afterwards that it cheapens both moments by extension.
It just feels so repetitive. I feel like, wait, he's trying to win her back again, right? Like, and obviously, yes, the big difference here is that he makes the choice of, like, he wants her to know everything about him. And it was mentioned very briefly early on that he has a journal, right? Because he joked about Catherine wanting to read it. And he clearly delivers that journal to her house, and, like, her mum says she's not in. She clearly is, but she's saying she isn't. And is like, "Hey, make sure she gets this. It's important." And he waits, like, down in the street next to the fountain across the road for her all night, hoping she'll read it, come out and see him, whatever. And that's kind of like building up to, like, the cloud. But she gets the journal and she reads it. She reads about the bet. She reads everything. She knows
and
who
this
he
is. Like this is a full journal he's had for, like, years. So it's his entire thing, everything about Catherine, everything about the B plot as well. It's all there written out. Yeah.
Catherine, in the meantime, though, wants to get back at him still and wants to cause chaos. So she calls Ronald, who's now with Selma Blair's character, and she's like, "Hey, Sebastian did some bad things. He hit me." Like, I mean, and she's like lying there, obviously it's completely fine. But he hit me, and also he had sex with Cecile. So now Ronald's looking for him and wants to beat him up. So when he finds him in the morning, he starts fighting him. And I mean, I appreciate, though, that when he goes up to him and says, "Hey, Catherine said you hit her," and immediately he's like, "Oh, dude, like, seriously, don't listen to her. Like, you don't know what's going on with her." And then he says, "And she also said you had sex with Cecile," and he just kind of stops and goes, well, okay, that part might have happened.
Yeah, he's like, he immediately, as soon as the Catherine bit's brought up, he has the immediate thing of, like, "Oh, God, man, don't listen to her. She just always lies." And he's like, "And what about Cecile?" And he's like, "Well," and then punch to the face, like, just not waiting for the rest of the sentence.
Yes, and at this point, Reese Witherspoon's read the diary. She's looking for him, and we get the scene. So they're basically rolling on the ground at this point, and I think Ronald's maybe on top, and they're throwing punches at each other. Yep. She runs up and tries to pull off Ronald, and he just kind of shoves her away, but it knocks her onto the road, and there's a cab coming down the street, and the cab driver's just like, "La la la, I'm looking at the sky, I'm not paying attention to anything in front of me," just so that
every cab driver in every movie.
And the big thing here is that we get the cliched thing where Sebastian jumps out and pushes her out of the way, and then he gets hit by the car instead. Even, and, you know, you can bring this up every time it does, but I'm going to mention it here because I think it's really relevant, is that I feel like it takes more effort to push the other person out the way and stop so you get hit instead than it would be to just go with them. Because if you dive at someone, your momentum should still be taking both of you. But instead, he jumps, pushes her, but stops himself in place.
I get what you're saying.
It's contrived.
I get what you're saying. It is very contrived. I think the biggest thing is that she is from a downward position. Like, she is not able to be easily moved. So he has to stop in place to be able to get her up on her feet and then, like, push her out of the way enough. Like, he's not diving. He is, like, stepping in, moving her, and then the car comes before he can continue stepping out. Is it contrived? Because the way they shot it, there's still like a good second of time where he could have moved. Absolutely. But I will say, like, a full dive thing was not technically present.
I'm just saying, instead of pushing, you could dive with her and it would be just as effective. I feel like it takes more effort to stop than it does to just go with her. But regardless, he goes over, and it's at this point where my memory, because I still assumed I was going to be fine. But then as he was lying there looking up at her saying, you know, I love you or whatever to her, I was like...
Literally that, yeah.
I was like, oh, wait. Actually, I think he dies here. Does he not die here? And that's when it came back to me. I forgot he died at the end of this movie, and that's where it was going. So, you know, bye-bye, little Sebastian.
That's at the beginning when I said he has many things in common with little Sebastian.
Bye,
this is the other one.
Bye, little Sebastian. Obviously, if you've not seen Parks and Rec, all these little Sebastian jokes are completely lost on you, but that means you've just not lived a full life. Go watch Parks and Rec and be happier for it. Season 1's a bit rough, but once you get to season 2, it's all gold. So, anyway.
So yeah, then we do the indeterminate cut ahead where it's opening up of the school year and they're already having a wake for Sebastian.
Yeah, it's like assembly, but they've got a big photo of him out as if it's a funeral, and they're like, the principal's making a speech. Catherine's getting ready to make a speech about her brother. She's in the bathroom
snorting coke.
She's still got that problem. And Reese Witherspoon comes out of the stalls and comes up and sort of, technically they've not met, right? And she's like, oh, hey, like, that's your brother that dies. Like, oh, yeah, you're that girl. You're the headmaster's daughter, right? And clearly, like, obviously Catherine has a lot of opinions about her. And clearly Annette knows everything about her, but they're not revealing it. So there's a lot of very passive-aggressive looks and glances and whatnot. But as
she even during the speech at the very beginning where Catherine was trying to play up how good of a girl she was in front of Selma's mom, she's like, you know, in times of trouble I always turn to Jesus. That's right. As Reese Witherspoon is leaving, she's like, well, you know, in times of trouble I always turn to Jesus. And Catherine does not recognize it. She doesn't realize it's a callback. So she's just like, okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah. So as she's making her speech, all of a sudden there's like a student runs in with like a booklet, right? Like a little booklet of sheets, and like gives it to someone, and then more and more students start leaving the assembly hall and they're outside. And eventually Catherine gets so pissed off that people are walking out during her speech, and she's trying to like finish it, but eventually she's like, what the hell's going on? And she storms out to the front, sees all these people reading these booklets, and it's actually Cecile, who I do remember thinking at this point, oh, it's nice she has a moment at the end, because it felt like after a certain point she just sort of left the movie, because like her plot was done. So she
last time we saw her, she was literally asleep in bed.
That's right. That was like the one appearance she had after everything else had happened. She comes over and hands one to Catherine, who opens it and sees that it's a bunch of photocopies of the journal, and it's got her face with the word bitch and like an explanation of the bet, an explanation of what they were doing to Cecil, everything.
It shows also a page of her crucifix necklace and supposedly a full description of there's a lot of cocaine in there.
Yes, which is what the principal sort of takes off of her and checks. It's, you know, Bittersweet Symphony's playing through all this bit, so it's all big and climactic, and it's like, oh, the one thing she thought she could maintain was her reputation as the good girl, and now she is going. Everyone knows how evil she is. Maybe she'll get expelled for the cocaine necklace. I don't know how.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, technically, unless Ronald is like explaining things, there's nothing that links her directly to the murder of Sebastian. So it's not like people are blaming her for that, but all of these actions that went into it, she's clearly not going to be viewed as a good person regardless.
Yeah, no, for the record, I would never have even called that a murder, because that, like, while she doesn't seem to give a shit that it accidentally led in his death, like, the fact that the fight stumbled onto a road and got him killed is completely just happenstance.
As it turns out, Cruel Intentions 2 actually follows the taxi driver and how he got there that day.
That's funny. Yeah, so I wouldn't call that a murder, even though it was her concocted fight that led to it. It's just more of a coincidence. But yeah, it's more just like, no, her reputation is ruined. Everyone's going to know how evil she is. She can never get that back now. And
whereas Sebastian, basically, I mean, yes, the book is out, and so that may damage his reputation to some extent, but he basically got martyred here. He's viewed in much more of a positive light than she is.
Which, I mean, I guess him being martyred to expose the evil that is her is maybe something of a redemption.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I wouldn't really call it one.
I mean, it's much more played up in the fact of this is just the nice and innocent girl of Reese Witherspoon joining in on these evil games they played and like taking down
and winning,
Catherine because of that same way.
And maybe that's the point, is it's the nice person who really is there to celebrate the victory in the car at the end with the sunglasses on, you know. Because I think one of the problems, and maybe you're never supposed to like Sebastian all that much, but even, like, obviously he's not likable at the start, he's not supposed to be, he's kind of a shithead. But even at the end when he's supposed to have been through his change, I still didn't like him that much.
Yeah.
You know, he still felt like him, like, when he, even though, like, what was going on with him and Ronald in the fight was, you know, technically like a lie or whatever, but even in that moment I'm like, yeah, you're still a douche, you still deserve some punches, like I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely think that he definitely should have had some major punishment here, but I do think that there was a pivot point in this movie, and it was the scene where he refuses sex with Reese Witherspoon the first time. I think that that's the moment where, as an audience, you're supposed to say, oh, see, he's changed, like he has officially like become better, he knows what love is, he's done that. My problem with it is that because that scene in the car with the silly faces and all the intermittent scenes just felt like a ploy, it all felt like layer 2 of his master scheme. Yeah. I never felt like we earned him falling in love.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I don't think we earned that. Remind me, did the montage of all the happy moments, did that play as she was holding him dying in her arms, or was that at the end?
That was during the car.
That was in the car.
That was the car. Yep.
So that's her remembering, oh, she made a wacky face at him and he laughed. Oh, they held hands briefly. He was at the top of the escalator, and that's all the memories, because that's all the happy memories the movie had.
Exactly. That's literally all we had filmed. Look, I'm okay if you do a montage in a TV show, even if it's like just one season, we're at the end of the season, because we've been there for at least like 6 hours minimum. I'm sure that we could come back to that. But this is an hour and 30-minute long movie.
Yeah.
I remember the things you're showing me.
And in 1999, it was probably like a 22-episode season of that. So, I mean, you had tons of material to work with. But this is not that. This is really stretching it. So, yeah, it does not. And I love a good redemption story. I do. Like, some of my favorite movies are about characters who go through like redemption, and it's a lot more, you know, like nuanced. It's a lot more sort of thoughtful. And even if the character has done something very, very bad that you can't forgive them for, you could at least by the end kind of like buy that they want to make it right in some way. They might never earn like your forgiveness, but you could at least respect that they are constantly trying and it's difficult or whatever. And in this, I don't get any of that from Sebastian. I just like, okay, he's changed, and in the context of, yes, they're teenagers and they're all idiots and they can grow up and be better human beings in a couple of years' time. The movie obviously presents them as so evil and like mature in their mind games that like you don't really think about them in that way.
You know, I like the viewpoint that, oh, of course they'll all mature and become less evil with time. Meanwhile, they were going to do Sarah Michelle Gellar in the reboot 2016 TV. Clearly, she wouldn't have learned a thing.
No, she was going to be evil again for sure. But I guess that's my point, though, is if your critique to everything we just said, if you want to defend the movie, and if you like the movie, fine, but if your critique to everything we just said is, yeah, but they're teenagers and that's a time when you're going through all these changes and, you know, you don't necessarily redeem for your stupid things, but you do grow up. I'm like, that's a fine point. But the problem is that for very little of this movie are they convincingly teenagers in any way, shape or form, right? Yeah. You can't have it both ways. You can't have like their teenagers be a get out when they're not acting anything like actual teenagers. So... you know, that'd be my counter argument to that if someone wanted to make it.
It's very telling that the only character in this movie that has a parental role is the one who's 7 years old. Like, everyone else is just left to their own devices. They're left to do whatever they want. They are practically adults, and they act like it. The only one who acts childish is the only one who has a parent character. Yep.
So, there you go.
And I do want to push back a little bit on what you said, though, of if you like this movie, if you want to defend it. Like I said at the beginning, it's not a good movie, but like I do have a lot of nostalgia for this movie. Like, this is the sort of thing where I can see myself coming back to it just to be like, let's watch this stupid movie that just is the perfect encapsulation of right before the 2000s, right before the world just started getting worse.
Yeah, I mean, I get there being like a weird nostalgia, like, 'cause there's other movies, like I said that about Bring It On, there's kind of a weird nostalgia to it, even though I don't think it's very good. But I don't think that makes it good, though. That doesn't make it, you know.
Oh, no. But I'm saying, like, in terms of defending it, like, I don't want it to come across that I was attacking it as, like, no one should like this movie, no one should have any fun with this.
Oh, no,
like,
I never meant to even suggest that. It's just more, I'm just saying, though, like, some people, inevitably, when you're negative about a movie on YouTube, someone in the comments will be like, no, this movie's great, you're just, like, stupid nerds who don't know how to talk to human beings. Someone said that in our Phantom Menace review today, which is why that was in my head.
Oh, that's entirely true. I have no idea how to talk to human beings.
Yeah, so we're still mad 25 years later. I'm like, you didn't listen to a single word we said. Painting me as if I'm some Star Wars fan. How dare you? Ugh. Disgusted at the suggestion.
Man, I cannot wait until we get to Lord of the Rings season.
I'm going to be taking a huge turd all over. It's going to be so good. I'm being hyperbolic. But although, that said, though, when we get to the Hobbit, like, stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
That, like, I'll be softening my blows during Lord of the Rings because I can recognize they are better. But when we get to the Hobbit movies, I like the gloves are off and the ninja blades are out.
You know, I was seeing a girl and we just started seeing each other just before, I think it was like the second Hobbit movie came out. And she was like, oh, I've never seen any Lord of the Rings movie. I'm like, oh, well, you know, we can go see that in theaters and we can catch up on the DVDs. For whatever reason, the only DVDs that were available to watch were the extended editions. So we spent 8 hours of one day just marathoning that. That relationship did not last 2 weeks.
Yeah, also, it wasn't 8, it was 12 because they're 4 hours each, the extended ones.
Are they?
Yeah.
Well, I might have fallen asleep somewhere.
That only covers 2 of them, I'm afraid.
I may have just passed out.
I want to say the theatrical cuts are closer to 3 hours, but the extended ones are like... I mean, I don't know if they're all exactly 4, but they're...
Look, all I'm saying is that ended with us doing all that dedicated stuff, seeing Hobbit 2 in theaters, and then breaking it off maybe a week later. So... I
mean, I'd have broken up with you too, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, you have multiple reasons for that.
Yeah, several. All right. Yeah, Cruel Intentions is you know, it was in the zeitgeist. It was kind of a thing. Mostly it felt like a bunch of 13-year-old boys really like seeing 2 girls make out.
Oh, absolutely.
And we barely even talked about that scene because it's so not important to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean,
no, it only exists for the fact that they won the MTV Best Kiss VMA Award. Like, it was 100% for them.
I forgot that was a thing. Yeah, like, I guess the only thing I could say charitably to that scene is that, because she didn't think Sebastian was going to help, because he'd kind of, like, went to do his own thing for that point in the movie, that she was going to try and awaken her sexuality or herself, but ultimately it went back to Sebastian again when Sebastian was motivated to come and help Catherine. But yeah, it does feel kind of, I won't say gratuitous, but just really kind of shameless how
No, I would say gratuitous because it's one thing if it's just like, okay, they share a kiss, whatever. But no, not only do they go in for seconds, not only do they get it more deeply making out, the camera does not blink. The camera moves in very tight. They specifically wanted to be like, all right, everybody, remember what Pee Wee Herman got arrested for. Nobody be doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like, if you like a trashy movie, like, you'll probably get something out of this, but I can like trashiness, but I need some more style with my trashiness. Like, like, there's a lot of horror movies that are not great, but I like them because they're very stylish. And like, there's a lot of slick filmmaking, at least, to go along with the sleaziness of it, and like maybe some fun kill scenes. But this doesn't have that for me. So, with this movie, it is all about the characters, their motivations, and their character arcs. And if the writing and like the way it's presented is not strong enough, then if that key element's not working, then it's just the trashiness that's left, pretty much. Like I say, there's the odd dark bit of humor or ironic cut to a different scene that is kind of funny, but that's pretty much the only thing I would say I like about it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody likes this movie for its style. I don't think there's anybody who comes into this saying like, "Oh no, I really like the cut that was made of between the montages when it faded into the journal." Like, no, it's just, it's very by the numbers. It's a very basic, like, directed and shot movie. But what gets people into this cult classic mode, I think, is just, like you said, it was in the zeitgeist, and it feels, in some ways, a little transgressive of the times. It feels like it was pushing the envelope a bit further than some other movies. But as we saw throughout this season, it really wasn't doing that much more. Like, the only thing that it really added was putting it as teenagers, making it so, oh, look at the shock and awe that these teenagers are doing such horrible, horrible things to each other, and they're all addicted to sex, and it's all happening right under your noses.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's easy to happen under your noses when you're rich parents who just go off to like a different country for the entire of the summer, and let the teenagers do whatever they want in your absence.
Yep.
All right. What's your scene of the movie, David?
It's got to be the makeout scene, right? No. I mean, I brought it up. It's a pivot point in the movie. I think it's one of the better acted moments as well. I'm gonna go ahead and give it to the moment where he refuses sex with Reese Witherspoon and then like tries to pull himself back together. I think that is, as much as I don't think that moment was earned of us saying that the character is able to feel love, I think the performances between the two actors there really kind of hit the mark of where they were aiming for. It really made it work out well. Honorary mention to the exact same scene that happens like 20 minutes later, where they also freak out at each other. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go the scene where Catherine is telling the mother about the relationship with the cellist, the instructor. Just because it's one of the few times in the movie where I got to just enjoy her actually like playing the game and manipulating someone, and just sort of got to enjoy it for how darkly funny it was, and kind of like how she's manipulating the prejudice of the mother and sort of using that as part of her scheme. Like, oh, like, I know you're going to like latch on to this because you see this guy as a bad guy because you're racist, so I'm going to manipulate that and use that as part of my plan. I think that is probably the most I get into any of the plots that were happening, so I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I also just don't think Ryan Phillippe is good at any point in this movie, so I have a hard time picking anything with him in it.
Yeah, I'm much more for the character than I am the actual actor itself. Like, I appreciate the beat as it is written, but look, you cast a very good sociopath with Ryan Phillippe. Don't try to make me like him.
All right, MVP of the movie.
It's Ryan Phillippe. No. God, I don't know. I don't think anybody really stood out as like a very strong performance here. Can I just say the late 90s? Is that acceptable as an MVP in this movie?
I think that's a bit of a stretch.
That's a bit much. That's the limit. Yeah. All right. In that case, I'm going to give it with something that I do think does count. I'm going to give it to the soundtrack of this movie. I think that the songs chosen, it evokes a very specific feeling. It's, again, it would be so easy to pick like the recognizable pop hits of the 90s, but instead they went with much more mellow, I wouldn't say emo, but like definitely not pop songs. They went with something a bit more underscored, a bit more moody, and it really plays out this different vibe of the 90s than stuff you get in like American Pie or whatnot. So
it was very more towards indie and alternative, I guess, is the way I'd say it.
Absolutely.
All right,
which Sony, I'm sure, has a big market of.
Well, obviously, the guy who played the football player Eric Mabius went on to be in Resident Evil in 2002. So,
did he?
Yes, I have to say that he is absolutely my pick to go and burn in a fire somewhere. Not my MVP, of course. I'm kidding.
Can I also say that the mother of Cecile is the character of Tanya in both Mamma Mia and Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again.
Oh, that can piss off. Yeah. You son of a bitch. Yeah, I'll have to go with Submachine Gun.
Yeah?
SMG, yeah. Sarah Michelle Gellar.
There you go.
Submachine Gun's my pet name for her.
That's not really a hell of a pet name.
I just made that up there, but
yeah. I mean, it works. It works.
I think she is the most interesting character to watch in the movie because she is evil and she's scheming, and like she's definitely a better actor than Ryan Phillippe. You know, she's still, don't get me wrong, she's still chewing the scenery in this, like for sure, but she's definitely more interested in that. I think Reese Witherspoon's character is borderline just underdeveloped because I don't think like there's much of a character that, like, obviously, yeah, when they introduce who she is and they say she's in this magazine article saying she's waiting for love, I never really felt that in all the conversations she had with Ryan Phillippe's character that she ever really like talked about it that much, or really like kind of like, you know, developed it by like sticking up for why she believes certain things or sticking up for who she is as a person. She's very much just a cipher for what Phillippe's going through and never feels like a character that's fully formed on her own.
Yeah, it's strange to me when you put it in that point of view, because obviously the other side of the plot here is we could have had a little side plot of him trying to convince her not to wait for love, but instead he decides to go down the plot of, no, I'm just going to convince her she's in love with me, because that's going to be, for some reason, easier.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you consider that, and obviously Selma Blair's performance, I criticized heavily for how creepy it felt because of how young she was portraying it. So you really, all the other main characters, I'm left with Sarah Michelle Gellar, who, yes, obviously the joke here is that I really like Buffy, so I mean it's an easy choice in that sense, but I do legitimately think out of the four main characters, she's the least bad. So
put it on the poster. Glowing praise.
There you go. That's what I've got. I mean, obviously Tara Reid was stunning in her like 30 seconds of screen time.
Yes.
But I mean, you know, when you've got an auteur who would play a scientist, Anuva Bowles, Alone in the Dark, you can't waste talent like that.
Oh, absolutely. And clearly she would be very upset at finding her nudie pics on the internet.
Does she have actual nude pics on the internet? Is that a thing?
I have to assume. I'm going to go ahead and lay down a little like, yeah, that exists somewhere.
All right, okay. Do you know what? I really wanted to like pick a different funny, because I did that joke at the start about Alone in the Dark. I wanted to say the same joke but with a different movie, but I couldn't think of anything else she's been in other than
she was Sharknado films.
Yeah, but they're intentionally bad. They're kind of a weird one. And that's why I mentioned Big Lebowski or American Pie, because those are the more mainstream things she's in that are actually...
I mean, she has a very long list. Hold on. I'm sure there's something she was in.
Oh, yeah, because American Christmas and Second Chance Christmas, both future X-Reels movies, I'm sure.
Great.
We're going to spring to mind.
No, I'm saying she must have had other just horrible films, because there's no way like she has managed to maintain this career without something like that.
Oh, American Christmas, a Christmas comedy from 2019. And after another ruined Christmas dinner, a mother is determined to make her family reflect on their misdeeds. It has a 3.6 on IMDb.
Jesus Christ, they really got everyone in Hallmark films, didn't they?
Oh, Clint Howard's in it! Horror royalty Clint Howard's in this movie with Tara Reid. Oh, we need to do this on Extra Reels now.
Great. You know, I realize now that sitting around doing these bits where we look through filmographies is what actually fills out the extra reels. So
sometimes it is, yeah. I love it.
Can we just?
I love.
Can we just move on?
She's in two Christmas movies that both came out in 2019. That's really funny to me,
dude. That's how Hallmark does it. Hallmark films like 7 Christmas movies with the same cast all at the same time.
I know, but you think they'd be spreading them out like a little bit.
You'd think, but I vaguely remember a Hallmark promotional thing at one point where it was like 25 days of Christmas, where it was every single day there was a new Hallmark Christmas movie coming out.
Yeah.
Until Christmas.
Second Chance for Christmas, the other one, is got Brittany Underwood. Is that a relation to Carrie Underwood? Because she's got a guitar on the poster.
Fourth cousins. She really sells up her name.
Oh, Vivica A. Fox is in this. I know that name. Rob Van Dam's in it.
Speaking of playing up the names.
Yeah. Do you know who Rob Van Dam is?
I'm assuming he's related to the other Van Dam, is he not?
No. He's a wrestler.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
He's a wrestler. Nothing to do with Jean-Claude.
All right. I thought for sure Van Damme's not that popular of a last name.
What's really funny, though, is he actually kind of looks like Jean-Claude Van Damme, but he's got nothing to do with him. but maybe that's why he picked the name. Maybe he recognized the resemblance.
I was gonna say, was it a chosen name? Was he like, nah?
Oh yeah, it's
I've been approached on the street.
Yeah, that is absolutely a stage name. Yeah.
Okay.
Almost all wrestlers are using, names they picked in some form or another.
Right.
All right, we're rating the movie.
Yeah, sure.
The trip in Tara Reid's filmography.
Wait for Tara Reid season coming up next summer.
But specifically only Tara Reid movies from like post 2015, so it's especially depressing.
Yes, it is. Us getting more and more progressively sad over the course of it. I mean, this one's tough for me because I'm trying to balance out my nostalgia factor with how much it really deserves as a score, because again, it's pompous, it's over the top, it chews the scenery, but there is something that I find nostalgic and just kind of stupidly fun about it. Like, it does have that little bit of that quality for me. I think if I'm really trying to approach it objectively, I'd give it like a 6.5, but I'm going to bump it up to the 7 just because, like, it does have that extra quality for me. But I will at least put on the record it only deserves a 6.5.
Okay, how very detailed by you. I don't know. It's pretty trashy. I do think the Selma Blair character legitimately is creepy in how young she's portrayed, which I do think is like really dragging things down. But I don't think it's that good otherwise either. It's not like it's good, but that drags it down. It's like it's barely mediocre, and then that drags it down. So
it would be perfectly fine if it weren't for the pedophilia.
Well, that's the thing. It's not really. I mean, it kind of that, because I mean everyone's underage here technically, but
yeah,
she's just acting like she's like super young. It's really weird. I am going to give it a 5 out of 10, and even then, I feel like I'm being a little nice to it.
That's fine. That is entirely reasonable. Again, this is my score. Absolutely reflects a nostalgia for days gone by rather than what it actually deserves. But I am
honestly, like, I feel like I'd probably rate it lower than Single White Female, but I think the that nostalgia of just like it reminding me of my childhood almost, it gives it a little bit of an extra little burst. But that's it. That's all you're getting out of me.
Fair enough. Now, the hard question, potentially, does it make the cut?
I'm hard about this. No.
No, not at all?
Just no.
All right, I would make the argument for cutting it close, but I also think I've argued that a bit too hard on other recent films, so I'll meet you at that point. I'll say cut from the collection.
If you argue me on this, then I'm going to make some accusations about you.
Look, we have to put it in the collection because of the makeout scene with Selma Blair and Sarah Michelle Gellar. Why wouldn't we put it in there?
All right, there you go. That wraps up a season of Collector's Cut, which means next week there'll be no episode. We'll take a week off between seasons. And you're getting a very short season next, because next season is Gladiator season. That's right, just 2 episodes, Gladiator, and then the week after, Gladiator 2.
Yep.
New release, simple.
I believe there was a point when we were trying out different schedules, trying to fit everything in, that this was originally like a Ridley Scott season, and we were like, nah, it's just not going to work. And we just diced it down to this.
Yeah, there was a few things. I mean, what's so funny is that part of the reason why I changed that when I changed it was because it felt like we'd just done Fincher season, which was a long season of a director, and it felt like, oh, I don't want to do another big long director season so soon. But at the same time, now that we're actually about to hit it, I feel like, oh, that was a while ago. But it doesn't really matter. Whatever. It gave us room for some more, because I think when that was happening, we did not have this erotic thriller block. So this got to happen instead, which maybe is a bit more variety. But still get to do Gladiator and Gladiator 2 though, which is fun.
Yep.
And then after that, the season that will start kind of in Christmas time will be Die Hard, which is perfect because the first 2 episodes are before Christmas and they're Christmassy, and then 3 onwards are not Christmas movies, but they all come out after Christmas. It's perfect. Like, it's synced up with the timeline perfectly.
I cannot tell you how proud Pete was when he first lined that up. He's like, it's there, it fits, it's exactly what I need. I
will say this though, this is probably the last year where the Christmas season will be like a specific franchise or something like that. Going forward, there'll just be a Christmas season with, you know, 3 or 4 Christmas movies that are assorted, and that'll be it. That'll be fine.
We'll try to pick something vaguely threading them together, but
nah, because I know the obvious thing people say is, oh, you could do like 4 versions of the Scrooge story, and I don't want to do that because that sounds really boring to do that.
No, dude, I absolutely let's just focus every single time it comes around, however many we can fit in, on big town girl goes back to her small town origins and finds the meaning of family and Christmas. Because there's about 75 of those coming out every year.
That said, though, because of these bad Hallmark and Christian-made movies will never be short for Extra Reels Christmas episodes.
Oh boy.
Never be short. So, fun. That said, though, we're not doing a Christmas movie on Extra Reels this year. Because the thing we're doing ties more into Die Hard than it does Christmas. But I'm okay with that, because whatever. Anyway,
I'll make the sacrifice for you, Pete, just to have a Die Hard extra.
Yeah, we don't know what movie it'll be yet because that's actually currently the vote at the time of recording. But by the time this goes out, you'll know what it is if you go and check the results on the Patreon. Speaking of Extra Reels and Patreon, though, Extra Reels is a show that you can get on Patreon at the $5 and up tier for supporting this show and all the other shows we do. Extra Reels is a show where me and David review some of the worst things ever made. You know, sometimes it's like famous bad movies that are actually kind of fun but really bad. Sometimes it's just absolute trash you've never heard of but we found available on YouTube or somewhere, and that may be what that Die Hard ripoff Extra Reels is going to be.
Great.
So have fun with that. But we've Cool as Ice was the one that we're about to get to, actually. That's coming up. That's the next Extra Reels. The last one we did was Jim Carrey. So just nothing but gems. Also, though, any tier on Patreon gets access to Criterion Cut, which every month we do an episode of a review of a movie from the Criterion Collection. So that's the more prestigious, upper class, high fancy movies. So, yeah, if all that sounds interesting and you just want to support the show and help keep it all coming, wouldn't be able to do this without the support on Patreon or via YouTube membership if you'd rather do it that way. But yeah, that is us. That is the show. That has been the Collector's Cut. So thank you for one more season, and we'll be back for a shorter season week after next with Gladiator. So thank you very much for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep watching movies, and if you can get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity.